I would also like to say hello to Donna and Bruce Keith, whose son, Jeff, is undertaking a courageous task to raise money for the American Cancer Society. Jeff, as you probably all know, is running from Boston to Los Angeles, and Nancy and I met him on Monday in Kansas City, where I'd gone for a little fracas of my own.
His name is Jeff Keith. On Christmas Eve of 1974, at age 12, his right leg was amputated due to cancer. 10 years later, he would set out to do what no one else has ever done. Jeff would become the first amputee to successfully run across America from Boston to Los Angeles. This is the southern Connecticut town of Fairfield. Bordering on Long Island Sound, it's the home of Jeff Keith. He grew up and played like most young boys. In fact, he was an athlete. Even at an early age, he excelled in a variety of sports. Jeff is the son of Bill and Donna Keith, who live in the suburban Fairfield neighborhood. At age 12, Jeff was diagnosed as having cancer and had his right leg amputated. His parents recall the time.
Well, I guess it was the season in 1974. That fall season when Jeff was really active. He went from the football field to the hockey rink and even on to the basketball court, playing back-to-back all three sports.
Well, it all really occurred during playing Little League hockey. And he had one away game up in Upper Connecticut. It was in Taft School. And he was thrust against the boards quite hard. And he remembered that, his knee got injured in that particular play. Yeah, but he thought nothing of it and went on to his other sports. And one morning, he just couldn't make it. He just couldn't run. His knee hurt him so bad. He came back and he told us that. What was in that point, Donna?
Oh, he said, my knee is really killing me, Mom. And he said, I just can't stand it anymore. So I said, okay, Jeff, let's just go get a quick x-ray. And I assumed he'd probably pulled a ligament or a muscle. So the doctor sat down and said to us he thought we should see a bone man. And that was the beginning.
Having a leg amputated was not going to stop Jeff. He was an athlete and just beginning life. Although re-entry into competitive sports was not overnight, he worked and trained hard to do what he wanted, to play sports. One of his many accomplishments was to become the Boston College varsity lacrosse goalie. Throughout his life, Jeff always set new goals. He explains how his run across America to raise awareness and money for the American Cancer Society came about.
And my original intention was to cycle maybe down the East Coast or cycle across America. And when I read about a young man running across Canada named Terry Fox and ultimately dying, I said to myself, wow, I said, cycling's really not enough of a challenge, and I'm going to run across America and spread a message to all people that any obstacle can be overcome through hard work and determination. And I conceived of the idea, as I said, back then, and since then I've been working and training hard to get in shape for it. I would say November of 1983, I started approaching American Cancer Society and talking to my friends and telling them about the idea, and more than that, knowing and realizing that to spread a message I'd have to visit rehab centers and hospitals and senior citizens' homes and visiting cancer patients and physically challenged kids alike and spreading the message to all types of people.
Putting together a Cross America run takes great preparation, time, money, and people. Jeff was to select many of his lifelong friends to accompany him as his support team. Although some members of the entourage would change during the course of the trip, a core of individuals would be with him all the way. Support and interest in the run was beginning to build throughout the country. Jeff appeared with Teddy Kennedy Jr. on Good Morning America.
Just to see a kid's face when we're running around that road, a young boy on crutches and who never knew he could do this, and to see me run across country, I think it'll be a positive and an upbeat message.
Jeff then appeared on Reverend Robert Schuler's Hour of Power TV program originating in California.
On June 4th from Faneuil Hall in Boston, I'll begin my run, and I'll be running from Boston across the country to Los Angeles right here.
Jeff Keith's run across America was mapped out. Certain cities were earmarked for appearances by Jeff, while at the same time attention was paid to avoid the interstate highways. Jeff would really be seeing America, and America would be seeing him. On June 4th, 1984, beginning with a prayer breakfast, Jeff Keith began an over 3,000-mile run from historic Faneuil Hall in Boston, Massachusetts. And the journey began. When Jeff arrived in New York, he was welcomed with open arms. He made several appearances. The New York Mets invited him to throw out the first ball at Shea Stadium during a game between New York and Cincinnati. Jeff was one of the few people allowed to mingle with the prisoners at Sing Sing. Not only did they accept him, they understood him. And they showed their support by collecting money for him to present to the American Cancer Society. Then it was back to the run and further west.
When I run, I think about the training that I'm getting in, that as each run that I take, I'm getting more and more into shape, and I look into the road, and I often venture off into my own little world for about an hour or so, and just think about being in shape and how good it feels to run and be out here, and having the ability to say, hey, I can run, I can do this.
When Jeff had reached Cincinnati, Ohio, he and his crew were faced with the prospect of a major setback.
It was September, early September, and we found ourselves without a Winnebago and without station wagons and without anything. Our previous management had left us and showed to ourselves and to them that we were going to keep running, continue running. And we continued running for the next 2 weeks in the van with little money, but a lot of heart and a lot of support from the crew. Finally, we regrouped with the American Cancer Society, and a new sponsor came on, United Van Lines, represented by Chuck Mattis.
Chuck Mattis of William B. Meyer Incorporated, a United Van Lines agent, tells of how his organization became involved.
How I really got involved is I'd come home from a business trip and was late one evening, about 10 o'clock. I was in the living room reading the local Fairfield paper, and on the front page was a story about Jeff Keith and the problems that he was experiencing. At that point, he was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and something just sparked in me that we had to do something to help Jeff and help him get to the West Coast. I went to our president, Lloyd Meyer, who's a very generous man, allocated the $2,000 from William B. Meyer Incorporated, and we gave that to the American Cancer Society. And then I felt that this was something special and something that United Van Lines might want to participate in as a sponsor. The people at United came through in super fashion.
After regrouping with a new corporate sponsor, the run was on once more. Over 2/3 of the trip was still ahead of them.
Physically challenged is a word that I like to replace with physically handicapped, because handicap sets restrictions and closes doors, and a challenge opens up doors and opportunities. And I'm promoting that message all the way across America to, as I said, any type of person, that anything that confronts one can be overcome with hard work and determination.
Throughout the run, a close-knit group of support crew members worked long hours, sharing responsibilities. They were also Jeff's closest friends, operating like a family. A real family member, Jeff's brother Dave, was one of them. Dave provided the physical and moral support needed to keep the run going. Often his mere presence was enough to ensure Jeff that things would be all right.
When, Jeff lost his leg Christmas Eve 10 years ago, I mean, it was challenge day after day. Every day was a new challenge for him, and he wanted to do this and he wanted to do that, and there was never any obstacle or problem that he saw that he couldn't do a certain thing that he used to do. I always treated him the same. There was never any extra special care that he'd gotten from either myself or the family.
Gracie Fitzpatrick, a Boston College co-ed and friend of Jeff, is also a fashion model, although one would not be able to tell by observing her hard work and dedication during the run. She worked side by side, pitching in, pulling her weight. In fact, she was one of the guys.
Seeing Jeff run every day, through pain, through the worst kind of weather, and yet getting up there every day, and every afternoon, every morning, and getting out there and running those 16 miles. You just realize you take so much for granted. I took so much for granted. I was at church and a priest said, we should all try to be star throwers, meaning that he made a little story up. You walk down a beach and there are all these starfish on the beach, and instead of, there are those people who pick up the starfish and keep them for themselves, and there are those people who pick up the starfish and throw it back in the water to at least give that starfish a chance to live. Everyone should really try to be a star thrower, and Jeff is a star thrower.
Matt Vossler is one of Jeff's closest friends. He was Jeff's roommate at Boston College.
Jeff would be running, he would be in a lot of pain. We have the altitude, we've had hills, the wind, the whole bit, the snow. And you just say to yourself, well, why are we out here? Why are we doing this? And a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes you lose sight of what we're really doing out here, what Jeff is accomplishing. But when you go into some of these rehab centers and some of these hospitals, and you meet these cancer people who, when you meet a kid who for the first time gets out of bed to see Jeff, or for another boy who's going to lose his leg and his operation is postponed a day so he can meet Jeff, you really get a feeling of what we're doing out here.
Hugh Kern is a boyhood friend of Jeff. They played hockey together.
The trip has been a fantastic, positive, emotional experience. It not only helped me mature, but it has also made our friendships between Dave and Matt and Paul and Jeff even closer.
Paul Totoro worked summers with Jeff at a marina. As a boy, they played football together.
But 10 years ago, when Jeff and I and Matt played football together, my father was very inspirational to us as far as bringing us together, saying a prayer to us all. And through the tough times on the run, my father reminded us of those times and suggested that we say a prayer each morning before the run.
The whole group was like a team in every sense of the word. They worked hard and played hard. They shared an experience of a lifetime, each playing a part in an historical event, an event that would leave its mark on history. They all knew in their own way that Jeff would make it clear across the country.
Really, you're losing our sanity. We're the young generation that Reagan speaks of. We're representing the young generation that Ronald Reagan speaks of. Someday we'll meet the Russians.
Now you know what we've been going through for 8 months. We've been listening to this. No more.
Someday we'll meet the Russians on our own terms.
This footage was shot by Paul in a hotel room in New Mexico on Christmas Eve.
Peace on earth and goodwill to all men.
Yes, peace and the Holy Cross.
It's now for 12 o'clock.
As was expected, the terrain and weather weren't always in their favor. Everywhere Jeff went, he talked with people, and they talked with him.
Well, I've learned from running across America, there are hardworking people out here. When they say the term, the old hardworking ethic, they mean that. The people out there are really struggling to really make a living. And it's those people that really give the most. They give $10, they give $1, they give prayers. You learn that there are so many good people out there that outweigh the ones that don't make America look good.
Just happened to be driving down the road in our motorhome, and we saw it, so we just turned around quick and unhooked our car and came back out to see him.
It takes a dedicated person to do that. It's just hard to come up with the right words.
I think that Jeff's doing really great. I think we're all backing him, and he's doing something that most of us haven't had the guts or the opportunity to do. We think that's really great.
Jeff Keith, good luck for the rest of your run.
There we go. Here we are live in Yucca Valley. Thank you. Yay!
Very moving. I just hope he makes it.
Do you have to get new shoes?
Every 4 days I run through a pair of shoes.
There were times when problems forced Jeff to stop. Sometimes the pain was too much. Nothing that caused severe delays, but nevertheless the schedule was pushed back and disappointment was felt by the entire group. Jeff has seen a great deal of America, its people, its distinctive terrain, sights like this, the high desert of California.
We just keep moving on, and what keeps me moving on is the fact that I know America's right behind me all the way. America's a beautiful country, and it's not the easiest way to see America, but it may be the nicest way to run across there and get involved with the people. If you believe in the incredible, you can accomplish the impossible. And I've always maintained that philosophy that indeed this run was incredible when I set out. The mileage, the terrain, the weather conditions, and just anything outside of that was incredible, an incredible thought to even think of. And the dream of accomplishing it was also impossible by many standards. But I think if you just keep believing in the incredible, you can accomplish the impossible.
With some 3,000 miles completed, the end of the journey was now in sight. Next stop, Los Angeles. Preparations had begun to welcome the lonely traveler who on one leg ran his way across America. the last 4 miles of an epic journey, the last portion of Jeff Keith's run across America.
Hey, Paul! Hey! We made it! We made it to LA! Jeff! Run, Carlos, run!
Los Angeles, support Jeff Keith as he finishes his epic run across America. Clap your horns and clap your hands for Jeff
Jeff Keith, the first amputee in history to successfully run across America on one leg.
Jeff?
Mr. President.
Well, Jeff, congratulations on the completion of your cross-country run. Nancy and I have been praying with you and pulling for you all the way, and you've been an inspiration to thousands of handicapped persons and literally millions of your fellow Americans.
Any fool can count the seeds in an apple, but only God can count all of the apples in one seed. And you've planted seeds over 3,300 miles. You bet. So I'm going to give you this solid gold cross, and etched in it like lace are words that I think every American would want me to say to you for them. Jeff Keith, God loves you, and so do I.
This young man, who many of you may not know, but he's my hero, of all heroes, is Terry Fox. This one's for you, Terry, all the way.
That evening, a reception was held to recognize all who had made the run possible.
Jeff's run is not only an inspiration, it's a challenge to all of us to go as far as our abilities will take us and a little bit farther.
Jeff Keith, God loves you, and so do I.
Everyone should really try to be a star thrower, and Jeff is a star thrower.
If you believe in the incredible, you can accomplish the impossible.
Jeff Keith ran over 3,300 miles. He wore out 36 pairs of sneakers and raised $120,000 for the American Cancer Society. What's more, Jeff raised the consciousness of millions across the United States of America, thus proving his point that with hard work and determination, faith in God and oneself, one can overcome anything.